All right, good afternoon, students. I'm now on my second attempt to record this lab for you. Again, audio issues, but at least I have a better grasp of the lab second time around. Today, working lab 6-TAC-13, filter and sort list. So here, write a program that goes through a list of integers from input and outputs and non-negative integers in ascending order from lowest to highest. So if your input is this, and you notice they're giving you a single line string, and why is it a string even though it's numbers? You have the white space there, right? And they're saying, hey, we want you to get this list of integers from an input and then output non-negative integers. So here's a string input you're getting, and then output that in non-negative integers in ascending order. So to sort integers, you're going to need to convert it back to from string to integers. So here's your output. It goes in ascending order. For coding simplicity, follow every output value by a space. So you're going to have to add your white space back in there. Do not end with a new line. If you remember, /n will give you that new line and break it, one on top of the other if you added that versus the white space. So let's kick it off. The first part of your operation is essentially you need to get the input, right? So let's code it up for getting input. All right, so user input, and for this, it told you we're going to get the example up here, which at this point is a string. So pretty simple, just handling a string as an input. Bam. All right, next up, we have talked about over and over in previous labs, and a lot of you pointed out, you're like, hey, how do I split? Splitting I would find more useful, but I really don't understand. Well, here is, I guess maybe the audio didn't come through on my videos. Part of splitting is everything, again, you're going to split, and you always got to reference a zero, right? Python is a zero index language, and I don't mean you got to reference it in the code. I'm just saying in your head, remember, whatever your first split is a zero. If you wanted to sort, when you reference your split, 0 through 10, 0 through 100, and you could sort through each split. So every item until it hits the white space is going to become its own token, right? So we're going to create a token. And now here we're going to take our user input data, and it's pretty simple. We split it. All right. So now what we have here is user input data but split, and everything is a token within that split. All right, that's what we've set it to. So if I wrote token and then I wrote 0 through 10, this would read as I only want in the split all items between 0 and 10, right? So if I was pulling it apart and I wanted specifically something printed out in a print statement, there is my first item in the list. There is my fifth item in the list, right? So it print the first number 10 and -6, right? If I had that in a print statement. Boom. So there's it all split. So let's go down to operations. So what are we going to do with operations? We're going to take this and we're going to convert the string back to integers, right? So that way we're working with numbers. So we're recognizing as whole numbers. So it's pretty easy. Or input data. All right, so now we're working with our input data and turning that back into a list for numbers. So a lot of questions come down to, I wouldn't say a lot of questions, but a lot of understanding in loops and the difference in them, right? Your while loop, you're keeping a condition until you break it. So you're running over and over until you break that loop somehow, whether you break it in an else statement or meeting a condition, or as I showed you, how to break the loop, with an operator, such as something's true. In this situation, you're running through a list, array, a string, right? And you want to go from beginning to end, right? So that's defined. I believe the chapters have covered it. Your for in loops. So you're going to traverse through the list from beginning to end, or specifically, you could also set stop points. But, for the intention of this, you're running through the entire thing. So for token, in token, right? Our for in loop, and we're working with token here. So let's activate the loop. We are now, I've deleted my n. We're gonna fuck that up. For token in token activated. Next up is pretty much the condition we're going to set for the loop. So now we've started the loop. What do we want to do? We want to turn our string into whole numbers. And specifically, we want to filter out anything that's a negative number. So if our token, in this case, right, we're going to take our token and turn it into a whole number. Bam. Now our tokens are not whole numbers, right? And we don't want anything below 0. Alright, so let's activate that condition. Run through our tokens, everything that's in the split. User puts 1, user puts 100, user puts 1,000, and take it and take out, turn them into whole numbers, and then take out anything that falls below 0. Any negative number is what we just activated there. But we need to now append that new list that we just created. Talked about append. You're going to use append for changing lists a lot. I said you're going to need it for your final because you're going to take your items and append them to an item list, and verifying that you have those items, that number, you meet your while condition and you break your loop. So right. So here you were worried about append. So now we're taking our input data that we created up here, which is storing our tokens into whole numbers. So we're taking our input data, and then append is as simple as append. We want it to stay whole numbers because that's what we were prompted. Token is what we changed. So if you take a look at this, token became whole number list without any negative numbers. All we did was keep a whole number with no negative numbers and append it into input data. That's become our new list. So next order of operation, we're going to sort. So how do we sort? Pretty simple. I haven't gone through chapter 6 in your book itself, but you're going to take your input data that we just created. And now this is an already formed variable. So we're going to take our input data and we're going to take it and we're going to sort it. And again, it's already a variable that we created now, so we're not working with it as creating a list from what we did. So input data, sort, it's created all. It's now sorting with that command. So next up is adding the white space. Where would we be at this? Well, you don't have a print line, so nothing would display. So I guess let's just I was thinking about it. Could I show you if I went through running? But let's just create the print line that you're gonna need. So again, we're gonna use for. We're gonna run through the list. Our for in. We're gonna take our input data list, and then we're going to add white space to every value within there. Alright, so we finished up our import, we sorted everything, and then all I simply did here is create a value to stick a white space. So for values and input data, print value, white space, right? So we are sticking white space in between everything in the input data. So it's hit me on line 11. Oh. Easy fix. Value does not match values. Uh, 10 out of 10. There we go. One number, 5 numbers, you know. It's taking negative numbers with one positive. Your output, blah. So again, our input, we took our string input, we split it. We used our split command to split, and everything within that would become tokens, and you reference off of 0. Python is a 0 index language. So later in here, you know, if I wasn't following the prompt of the book and I wanted to take each one of those, I could reference 0, the number that they're correlated with what they put into the string, right? So if they stuck me 100 numbers, I'd have a list between 0 and 100, and every one of those would be a token, and I could reference that token of that split and use it as needed. Here, all we did was convert the string back to integer. Again, we, you know, created input data, right? So we're creating input data as our list, and then we're going to take our token that we created up here that is storing the split, and we're just running through that list with a for in from start to stop of that list, and turning it all into whole numbers and filtering out anything below 0. We don't want anything below 0. And then you need to take that new list you created, because right now it wouldn't be anywhere, right? You append it into your token list. So token became this new one right here, and storing that, because up to this point it was storing that variable. But now we restored that variable into token. So token's holding what we need. We then take our input data. We're running through that with a sort. And then our correction, right? We're using tokens and we're storing it in input data. Then we took a sort through our input data. And then we ran through our for in loop again, right? Process through that input data to essentially just add white spaces. So it all comes down to taking that input, creating that new list to store it, that input, right? And then appending our new corrected list and sorting it. I hope those concepts are not like way up there at this point in week 6 and you fully understand. How are you going I only got 2 minutes left for a YouTube video. How are you going to apply this to that game? This is where I really want you to get these concepts of what you're looking at here. You're going to have, I believe your rubric says your dictionary has to hold your items, and I don't think you can get around that, but what you're going to do is read through your dictionary, append that item out of it, and store it into a new list. You know, user items, a list you created, you know, read through that dictionary and append that into that list. And again, your game, you're more or less working with a while loop until you hit a condition that's true, which maybe it says something like hold 6 within that that user item list, right? And your while loop is best with that operator. Well, user list. Again, we're going to use that operator. You know, and so when essentially your list becomes inputted to 6 items and you're running through your list, your while loop's going to break because it's actually becoming true, because you're running through your list while it's not true, and you're going through room after room until that point, and then user won the game. Congratulations. Hope this video helps. Good luck, all.